The rain had a way of swallowing sound out here. On nights like this, when the wind came down from the hills and slammed itself against the pine line,
You can't stay out there. Come inside now.
as if the storm itself
He's coming,
had erased
don't you
roads,
understand?
phone lines,
He's right behind me.
even memory.
What
Ethan
happened out
Cole
there?
stood by the window
He
of
didn't
his
hurt you,
small
did he?
wooden house,
He was there,
watching
right
the
behind
rain
me.
slash
barely
diagonally
got
across the
away.
yard.
Don't worry,
The
you're
porch
safe now.
lamp,
We
a
can't stay
lonely
here. We
halo
have to
in the
move
dark.
now.
The power
current is
had
too
already
strong,
flickered
I'm scared.
twice.
Just follow
Lily
me.
was asleep
We
on
have
the
to go.
couch, curled into a blanket with
Grab
her
my
stuffed
arm.
fox.
You need
He
to
should have
move
felt safe.
faster.
Remote town,
I'm trying.
solid roof,
The current is
years
too
of getting
strong.
used to solitude. But something was riding in the storm tonight. A presence, a wrongness. He couldn't name it, only feel it tightening in his chest the way it used to when he heard his name being called to HR 2 years ago. Then came the knock. Not a weak, lost traveler knock. Affrontique, I'm out of options knock. 3 sharp raps. A pause, then 2 more. Harder, the kind of knock people make when they are standing between danger and humiliation. When pride has already broken and survival is all that's left. Ethan froze, just for a heartbeat. Almost no one came out this far during a storm. No one should know this address. He opened the door, and there she was, the woman who had once looked him dead in the eye, and said, "People like you don't last here." Madeline Hayes, soaked to the bone, shaking, makeup washed away by rain. The former queen behind the glass tower on his porch. At midnight, in a storm. "Please," she said, voice breaking. "Let me in." Ethan stared at her for a long, deliberate second. Rain blowing in around her, thunder rolling close enough to rattle the dishes. Then he stepped aside just a little and said under his breath, not kindly, not cruelly, only, truthfully, "Come in before I change my mind." The house was warm from the wood stove. The air smelled faintly of pine and something sweet he'd baked earlier with Lily. Madeline stepped in, dripping onto the old wooden floorboards, her breaths shallow and fast. Like she'd run, she clutched her bag too small. Not a city bag, not a CEO bag like it, held everything she had left. Ethan shut the door hard against the wind. For a moment, they simply looked at each other in the dim golden light. He had changed. Not in the way the city people made change, sound promotions, sharper suits, sleeker cars, but in the way the weather wears on stone. His jaw looked stronger, as if he clenched it more these days. His shoulders were broader, hands rougher, veins more visible from work. There was a kind of steadiness in him he hadn't had back then, when he was still trying to please superiors, still trying to keep the job that paid for Lily's school. This man didn't look like someone afraid of being fired. This man looked like someone who had already lost everything that could be taken. "Take this," he said finally, pulling an old flannel from a peg by the door and tossing it to her. "You're shaking." She caught it, stunned, that he was helping her at all. She looked smaller without the armor of her glass office, without her power and boardroom lighting. Her dark hair was plastered to her face, curls ruined, mascara bleeding on her hair eyes. The storm had stripped all the CEO from her. She was just Madeline now, just a woman in trouble. "Thank you," she whispered, voice hoarse. Lily stirred on the couch. "Dad," she mumbled. "It's okay." "Lil," Ethan said gently, "go back to sleep." The little girl obeyed immediately. She trusted that voice. Madeline glanced over, eyes softening, as she saw the 8-year-old, cheeks flushed from sleep, a book still open beside her. For half a second, Madeline's expression cracked into something like longing. "You still have her," she said quietly. "Of course I still have her," Ethan replied, tone flat but not angry. "She's not something the company could take." That hit. She swallowed. Thunder boomed again. Closer now. The windows rattled. Ethan went to the wood stove, opened it, fed in another log. The orange glow grew, shadows flickering on the walls. He wore a gray t-shirt and worn jeans, the clothes of someone who did things with his hands. Now, not reports. The room felt small, intimate, too intimate for 2 people with a history like theirs. "How did you find my house?" he asked without looking at her. She hesitated. "I remembered the town you mentioned." When you resigned. I didn't resign, Ethan said sharply, turning to face her. You terminated me. Madeline flinched. You're right. The storm roared around them. A living thing. He let the silence stretch, then asked, Why are you here? Madeline. Her lips trembled. This was the part she dreaded. Coming here was already the deepest kind of humiliation. CEO of Hayes Urban Development. The woman whose name was on 3 buildings downtown. Reduced to knocking on the door of the man she'd once called not a long-term asset. But even humiliation was better than staying out there. I had an incident, she said, eyes darting toward the front. My car hit a branch. I was trying to get back to the freeway, but it's flooded. My phone died. There were no lights anywhere. I remembered this road. I remembered you said you had a place out here. Her voice cracked. I didn't know where else to go. Ethan, you live in a penthouse, he said slowly, as if tasting the irony. But you came to the man you fired. She nodded, shamefaced. It was raining too hard, she whispered. And I didn't want to be alone. There it was. The real reason, not just the car, not just the storm. She didn't want to be alone. Ethan watched her for a long moment more, then jerked his head toward the hallway. Bathroom's down there. Towel on the rack. You can shower. Get warm. I'll make coffee. She stared at him like she didn't quite believe he was helping. Even after. Yeah, he said, turning away. Even after. Hot water was one of the last civilized things you could cling to in a storm. Madeline stood under the spray, eyes closed, letting heat fight its way into her bones. The mirror was fogged. Her heart wouldn't slow. Every sound from the house drawer closing, kettle whistling, footsteps made her tense. What was she doing here? What madness had driven her to walk through a storm, to the house of a man she had once stepped on? But it hadn't just been panic. It had been tonight. It had been that boardroom. It had been the way Harper Bloom, the new CFO, had smiled sweetly while reciting the numbers that said Madeline Hayes, youngest CEO in the firm's history, was now expendable. Her projects, too risky. Her people, too loyal to her. Not the board. Her negotiation with the Singapore fund, mishandled. Her image, slipping. She had watched them circle her like vultures. Men and women she had mentored, promoted, even protected. She had seen the second they smelled weakness, when the tech tower project got delayed by environmental protests, when shareholders got nervous. She had seen it in their eyes. Take her crown. But she hadn't walked tonight just because she was losing her company. She had walked because they had brought him up. Ethan, they had said, in that boardroom, in front of her, with a slide on the screen, this was a wrongful termination. We had to settle. It shows a pattern. Madeline, and she had felt heat crawl up her neck. Shame. She wasn't supposed to feel. CEOs didn't feel shame. But she did. She had ruined a man's life because she'd been under pressure. And now, 2 years later, she was the one outside in the rain. She shut off the water, dried herself, put on the flannel too big, smelled like cedar and a hint of aftershave. She stared at herself in the mirror. Her hair was messier, face pale without makeup. She didn't look like the woman whose face had made 3 business magazines. She looked like someone who needed to be forgiven. When she stepped back into the living room, the house was darker. The power had finally gone. Only the stove lit the room now, pulsing orange. A lantern sat on the table. Ethan had made coffee in an old French press, the kind you buy when you stop trying to impress clients and just want decent coffee at home. He poured her a cup. Thank you, she said again. He grunted. Lily was fully asleep now, blanket tucked, Fox in arms. Madeline sat carefully, eyes lingering on the child. She's gotten bigger, she whispered. You saw her once when she was 6, Ethan said. At the company picnic, you didn't remember her name. Madeline winced. I remember now. No, Ethan said quietly, eyes on the fire. You remember the guilt now. She looked at him, then really looked. Is that why you let me in? So you could humiliate me? He met her eyes, unblinking. If I wanted to humiliate you, I would have left you on the porch. The words settled between them. Not cruel. Just true. Outside, the storm howled down the chimney. A tree branch scraped the roof. Somewhere, in the creek behind the house was swelling. He'd have to check it soon. It's not safe to drive tonight, Ethan said after a while. Road's probably washed out by the bridge. You can stay on the pull-out bed in Lily's room. I'll take the couch. I don't want to intrude. You already did, he said. But there was a flicker of a smile in his eyes, now tired. Reluctant. Human. Might as well do it properly. She almost smiled back. Almost. But the air was still too thick with the past. Ethan, she said after a long beat, fingers tightening around the warm mug. About what happened at Hayes. He cut her off with a look. Don't. But I have to. No? He said. Voice low but firm. You don't have to. That's the thing. Madeline. You never had to. You just did. Because it was cleaner on paper. Because it made you look decisive. Because it made investors think you could make hard choices. I was one of those choices. Her eyes stung. You think I enjoyed it? I think you didn't think about it, he said. Because you didn't have to go home and tell an 8-year-old why Christmas was going to be smaller. Silence. The wood popped. Madeline swallowed hard. I was under pressure from the board. We lost the Westfield contract. They needed a cut. You were new. You questioned Harper's budgeting. You flagged the land survey irregularities. You were too honest. Yeah, Ethan said. Gaze distant. That's what you said. You don't fit the culture. He said it in her old, cool voice. It cut her even now. Madeline took a breath. I was wrong. Ethan didn't say anything. The storm answered instead. The night deepened. An hour passed in uneasy quiet. The rain didn't let up. If anything, it hammered harder. The wind was now constant, a presence that circled the house, probing for weakness. Occasionally, the whole structure shuddered, and Lily murmured in her sleep. Ethan checked his phone, no signal. Of course. He went to the back door, opened it a crack, peered out with a flashlight. The beam caught trees whipping, the yard half flooded. The creek, Jesus higher than he liked. He shut the door. How bad is it? Madeline asked softly. Worse than it should be, he said. Ground saturated from last week. The creek might spill. Will it reach the house? He did a quick mental measure. Probably not, he said. If we're lucky, and if we're not. He looked at his daughter. We moved to higher ground, he said. But I'd rather not in the dark. There was fear in Madeline's eyes. Now, not business fear, not reputation, fear. Real, physical fear, the kind most city people rarely felt. She watched him move efficient, practiced. He checked that the flashlight had batteries. He filled a couple of jugs with water. Just in case. He pulled out a first aid kit. There was no panic in him, only readiness. She realized this was what he had built out here. Not wealth, not status, but competence. The ability to keep a child alive when the world decided to shake. He was the kind of man she should have kept, but she had thrown him away. Why did you really come? He asked suddenly, catching her off guard. I told you. The car. No, he said, shaking his head. That's why you knocked on my door. Not why you left the city tonight. She froze. Outside, thunder rolled long and deep, like an old god turning over. She exhaled slowly, the flannel warm around her shoulders. They're pushing me out. I figured. They used you, she said bitterly. Your termination, your settlement. They said it showed I lacked judgment and created legal liabilities. They needed a pretext. Harper's been gunning for my seat for a year. Tonight they had enough votes. His jaw worked. So you ran. I walked out before they voted, she said. I wasn't going to sit there and let them tell me I didn't build what I built. I left. I drove. I didn't even take my driver. I just drove. In a storm. I didn't care. He regarded her quietly. You did care. You came here? I came to the only person I ever wronged who... Her voice faltered. Who, what? Who I thought might still open the door. She whispered. Something moved in his eyes, then not forgiveness. Not yet. But recognition of a different kind of courage. It took something to come here, to face him, to be small in front of someone you once towered over. You could have gone to a hotel, he said. I didn't want strangers. She said. I wanted someone real. You wanted absolution. Yes, she said, eyes shining. Yes, Ethan, I wanted absolution. He didn't give it. Not yet. Instead, he said, you were good at your job. Madeline. She blinked, startled. You were ruthless, but you were good. He said, you fought for the Harborview project. You negotiated the downtown tower. You cut the right deals, except one. Yours, she whispered. Mine. Tears spilled over now. Hot. Even in the cold house. I was angry, she said. I was 31, and in charge, and they were all watching me, and I was not going to be the girl who couldn't make hard calls. So I made one in front of everyone. I made you the example. No one is irreplaceable. It sounded so strong in that room. But outside, her shoulders shook. Outside it followed me. I kept seeing your face when I slid the folder across the table. He remembered. God. He remembered. He had sat there. Employee ID still in his pocket. Fingers gripping the edge of the chair. Hearing the words like bullets. We appreciate your time with us, Ethan. But at this point, organizationally, he hadn't even heard the rest. He'd been thinking about Lily's school trip, about rent, about telling his mom, and Madeline had been across from him. Flawless. Hard. Eyes like glass. Now those eyes were full of rain and regret. I'm sorry, she said. Voice breaking. I'm so sorry. He stared at her, then said, softly, I know. That was all. He didn't say I forgive you. He didn't say it's okay. Because it hadn't been okay. Because he had spent nights staring at ceilings. Nights telling a child it would be fine. Nights doing odd jobs to make ends meet. He had bled for that decision. But he said I know. And sometimes, that was the first rung on the ladder out of shame. The wind hit the house harder. A strange, low groan came from the back. Ethan went rigid. Stay here. He grabbed the flashlight again. Went to the back door. Swung it open into the storm. Cold, wet air blasted in. Madeline wrapped the flannel tighter and followed him despite his look. The backyard, which sloped down toward the creek, was now a swath of moving water. The creek had indeed spilled, rushing brown and wild around the base of the trees. Worse, a large tree, maybe half rotted, had fallen across the water and created a partial dam, making the water pool higher on their side. If it kept rising, it could reach the foundation. Damn it, Ethan muttered. Is it bad? Madeline yelled over the rain. Not yet, he said. But if that log jams more debris, we could have a problem. What can we do? Nothing right now, he said. Too dangerous to go out. We wait. They went back inside. Soaked again. He toweled off quickly, then looked at her, at the way she was shivering again. You're not used to real storms, he said almost lightly. I'm used to different storms, she said. That's obvious. They almost laughed. Almost. Then the lightning hit. It struck somewhere close, so close the house flashed white. The sound came at exactly the same instant. A violent crack that made Lily sit up with a cry. Daddy. Ethan was there in 2 strides, scooping her up. It's okay, Lil. Just thunder. Her eyes were wide. Then she saw the stranger. Who's that? Madeline forced a soft smile. Hi, Lily. I'm Maddie. I used to work with your dad. You're wet, Lily observed. I was outside. Madeline said, your dad let me in. Dad lets people in when it's raining, Lily said wisely, cuddling into him. He says storms make everyone the same. Madeline's throat tightened. Ethan kissed the top of his daughter's head. That's right. Lightning flashed again. Farther this time. But the storm wasn't done with them yet. Not by a long shot. Night in a storm is long. Hours blurred. Lily fell asleep again. This time in her father's arms. And he carried her to her room. Madeline offered to help, but he shook his head. He tucked Lily in, checked the window, came back. Madeline wandered the small house. There were pictures, Ethan with Lily at a lake. Lily in a Halloween costume. A photo of a younger Ethan with an older woman, his mom. No sign of a wife. On a shelf sat a framed certificate. Hayes Urban Development. Employee Excellence Award. His. From before. He hadn't thrown it away. Why? Because he wanted to remember he'd been good enough, or because he wanted to remember why he'd left. She stood there, staring until he spoke behind her. "You kept it," she said without turning. "It was the last thing I got before you fired me," he said. Thought it was funny. It wasn't funny. "No," he said. "It wasn't." She turned. There was a weariness in him now, but also a kind of peace. He had made a life here. Maybe not the life he'd pictured when he was 25 and newly married, but a life. Nonetheless, she was the one whose world was crumbling. "Ethan," she said slowly, "when I sat in that office 2 years ago, I thought I was powerful. I thought I was above consequences. Tonight I realized I don't have anyone to run to. Not really. The board will replace me. The investors will forget me. The press will like the drama for a week and then move on. I built an empire, and I am still alone. You have money." She laughed, humorless. "Money doesn't sit with you during a storm." He couldn't argue. "You have Lily," she added softly. He looked toward the dark hallway, where his daughter slept. His face softened. "She's why I didn't drive back to the city," he said. "After you fired me, I thought about begging for my job. I thought about suing. I thought about drinking. A lot. But in the end, I just picked a town, found work, built something. For her. You were always stronger than I saw," Madeline said. "I only looked at you through numbers. You looked down on me," he corrected gently. Not accusing, just naming it. She didn't deny it. "I did," she whispered, "because you didn't want what I wanted. You didn't want to stay late, to move up, to claw your way to the top. You said you had to pick up your daughter. I thought that meant you lacked drive. I didn't understand that it meant you had a different drive. A better one," he said. "Yes," she said, tears filling her eyes. "A better one." He watched as she wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand. "I'm not the woman you knew," she added. "Or maybe I am. But I don't want to be here anymore. We don't always get to rewrite," he said. "Sometimes we just live with what we did." "I know." The rain pounded on. Then a sound neither of them wanted to hear. A deeper gran. A shift. A dul. Heavy thud from the back of the property. Ethan's head snapped up. That was the tree. He ran to the back again. This time, Madeline right behind him. He opened the door. The creek was worse. The makeshift dam of branches and the fallen tree had given way on one side, not fully, which would have let the water rush downstream, but partially, creating a violent swirl. Right toward his property. The water was now eating at the bank, chewing away the earth closer to the back steps. "Damit," he said again. Sharper. "Can it reach the house?" Madeline yelled. "If the bank collapses, it can undermine the foundation," he said. "We can't stay on the ground floor if it gets worse. What do? We move things up," he said. "And we pray the old willow doesn't go." He turned to her. "You stay with Lily. If I tell you to go, you go. Take her. And go up the road. There's a higher cabin, 1/4 mile up. In this storm," she said. "Ethan. That's. Do you want her in floodwater?" He snapped. "No." "Then do what I say." She nodded, breathing hard. He grabbed a shovel. A rope. Like he was about to go outside. "Wait," she said, grabbing his arm. "You can't go out. It's too deep. I need to move some of those branches before they create more pressure. You'll get swept." He looked at her. "Do you trust me?" Her eyes searched his brow. Did she? She had trusted him once with small things, reports, project analyses. She hadn't trusted his judgment back then. Now, she trusted him more than she trusted anyone. "Yes," she said. "I trust you." He nodded once and plunged into the rain. Madeline watched, heart in her throat. as he made his way down the slick slope toward the creek, boots sinking into mud, flashlight beam cutting through sheets of water. The water was high, angry, biting at his shins. He leaned into it, teeth clenched, reached for one of the bigger limbs that was redirecting flow toward the house. "Please don't fall," she prayed. "Please." The water surged. He lost his footing for a second, but caught himself on the branch. "Ethan," she screamed. He waved her off. He wrestled the branch free, tossed it downstream. The water shifted. Slightly, not enough, but a little. He moved for the next one. Lightning flashed again, lighting him like a statue against the storm. He looked like the man she had never let him be strong, stubborn, protective. A father in a flood. She realized, with a kind of aching clarity, this was what power really looked like. Not boardrooms, not glass towers. A man in a storm, saving what was his. She backed into the house, ran to Lily's room, lifted the sleeping girl, who whimpered. "It's okay, sweetheart." Madeline soothed. "We're just moving." "Where's Dad?" Lily mumbled. "He's outside." Madeline said. "He's making sure we're safe." Lily clung to her. For a moment, it was so sharp it nearly cut Madeline. She had never held a child like this. She had never chosen this life. She had chosen a corner office instead. But it was this that made life worth anything. She held the girl tight. The moment of real danger came fast. The creek, angry at being partially blocked, chewed harder. A section of the muddy bank gave way with a wet roar. Water rushed closer, slamming into the underside of the back steps. Ethan barely made it back onto the porch before the water surged where he'd been. He stumbled in, soaked, breathing hard. "It's coming up faster than I thought," he said. "We have to go." "In this," Madeline said, eyes growing wide as she saw how high the water now was. "Ethan, Lily, we have to," he said, voice like iron. "If the foundation goes, this whole house could shift. We can't risk her." He grabbed a backpack, threw in water, flashlight, first aid, a blanket. He slung it on. The cabin up the road she started. "Yeah," he said. "It's on higher ground. Belongs to Jensen. He doesn't stay in storms. We can shelter there." "How far?" "Quarter mile. In the dark. In floodwater." He took Lily from her arms, cradled her. "We stay to the right of the road where it's highest. We move fast." Madeline looked out. The rain was a curtain. The night was almost solid. The road was more like a stream now. "I'll carry her," Ethan said. "You stay beside me in case I slip." "You could fall," she said, panic spiking. "That's why you're there," he said, eyes burning into hers. "To help me up. To help her up if I go down." She nodded, throat tight. This was it. The storm had forced their reckoning inside. Now it was forcing their courage outside. They stepped into the night. Cold. So cold it stole breath. The rain hit like nails. The wind trying to shove them back. The flashlight made only a weak tunnel through it. Water rushed across the driveway, up to their calves in places. Ethan held Lily to his chest, jacket thrown over her head. She clung to him, finally fully awake, and crying. "It's okay, baby," he shouted over the wind. "We're just taking a walk." "It's scary," she sobbed. "I know," he said, "but I'm here." Madeline stayed on his left, one hand on his arm, the other steadying herself on the slanted bank. The road to Jensen's cabin sloped upward, but the first stretch dipped here. Water flowed like a narrow river. Ethan stepped carefully, testing each spot. The current tugged at his boots. "Stay on the crown," he yelled. "Higher spot in the middle." She tried. Twice she slipped. Sneakers, no match for mud. Each time she grabbed his arm harder. "You okay?" he shouted. "Yes," she shouted back, even though her legs were shaking. They made it to the curve, where the road bent toward the higher grove. Here, the water was less. Thank God. But the wind was worse, knifing through sodden clothes. Almost there, Ethan yelled to Lily. Just a little more. Madeline couldn't see the cabin yet. The world was reduced to rain, trees, the beam of light, the sound of water, then a cracking sound behind them. A heavy one. A tree. Another bank. Ethan spun. Flashlight. Flashing back down the slope toward his house. Madeline did too, and her heart stopped. The creek, now, unimpeded, had surged, not toward the house this time, but across the side lot where the small footbridge was. And down there, against the wild water, something had gotten stuck. A dark shape, twisting, slamming against the half-submerged fence. "What is that?" Madeline gasped. Ethan's eyes narrowed. That's a car." Her blood turned to ice. "My car," she whispered, horrified. It got washed. Another realization hit her at the same instant. She had left her bag in the car. In the bag, her documents, her board notes, her phone, her USB drive containing sensitive company files she had taken to defend herself. If those got found downstream. "Ethan," she said, voice suddenly thin. "My bag is in there." He looked at her like she was insane. "Madeline, it has confidential files," she said. "Panic now. If they get out, you're worried about files." He shouted over the storm. "Right now. You don't understand. I understand you're alive," he said. "And my daughter is alive. That's what matters." She shook her head desperately. "They'll destroy me. Ethan, they'll say I stole data. They'll sue me. They'll bury me. You already said they're pushing you out." He snapped. "What's one more shove?" She stared at him, chest heaving. Then, stupidly, driven by that last, desperate threat of control, she did something reckless. She moved toward the slope. "Madeline," he shouted, but she was already scrambling down, toward where the car was jammed against the fence, half submerged, water raging around it. She slipped once, caught a root, kept going. "Madeline, stop. It's not worth it." But in her mind, it was not even because of the files, though they mattered, but because she couldn't bear to lose one more thing. She couldn't bear to let the storm take everything. She had to save something. She reached the lower ground, boots sinking into cold, rushing water. She waded toward the car. The current hit hard, so hard it almost spun her. She gasped, grabbed the fence. The car was wedged, trunk underwater, front tilted up. The driver's side was still above water barely. Her bag was visible through the window, floating in the seat. She reached for the handle. The water surged. She lost her footing. "Madeline!" Ethan roared. He shoved Lily into Madeline's arms. No, Lily was with him. He couldn't leave her. His whole body was a war. Go save the woman. Protect the child. One arm tightened around Lily. He made the split-second choice. He thrust Lily toward Madeline. No, he thrust Lily toward the higher bank, where a thick root stuck out. "Hold on to that," he yelled at Lily, voice like thunder. "Don't let go." Lily, eyes wide with terror, grabbed the root with both hands, whimpering. Then Ethan plunged down after Madeline. The water was like a fist. It slammed him sideways. He dug his boots in, forced himself upright. The flashlight gone now. He could see her struggling, water to her waist, reaching for the car. "What are you doing?" he bellowed. "You're going to drown." "I have to get it," she cried. He grabbed her arm. The current yanked both of them. He nearly fell. "Let it go," he shouted into her face, rain and river water in his mouth. "It's over. Madeline, let it go." Tears mixed with rain. "I can't." "Yes, you can," he roared. "You have to." She stared at him, shaking. Everything breaking career. Image. Control. Years of hard, cold, perfect CEO. And then, finally, something in her snapped. She let go of the car. She let go of the bag. She let the storm take it. But in that same instant, the car, freed of her weight, shifted just a little, and the force of the water swung it toward them. Ethan saw it. He moved. He shoved her. Hard. She fell backward, into shallower water, hitting her shoulder. Gasping, the car slammed into where she had been. But now Ethan was in its path. It struck his hip. It spun him. The current took him off his feet. Ethan, she screamed. He grabbed for anything, a fence post, a root. Her hand, their fingers met. He latched on. The water ripped at him, trying to tear him away. He heard Lily scream too, high and terrified. "Daddy, I've got you," Madeline cried, both hands on his now, bracing herself against the bank. "I've got you. Ethan, don't let go." "He won't," he grunted, legs flailing in the current. The water was stronger than he'd calculated. He could feel its cold teeth. He could feel the pull toward the deeper channel. If he went there, if he got caught on debris, it would be over. "Pull," he shouted. She pulled. He was heavy, waterlogged. She wasn't as strong. He saw it in her eyes, the strain, the panic. "Madeline," he said, breathless. "Don't you dare," she said, teeth clenched. "Don't you dare let go. Listen to me," he gasped. "Take Lily." "No," she screamed. "I am not leaving you." The current surged again. His grip slipped. He tightened it, knuckles white. "Madeline," he said, voice suddenly calmer, almost eerily so in the chaos. "You said you wanted to save something tonight." "Yes," she cried. "Save her," he said. Her eyes flooded. "Please," he said. "For me, I can pull you." "You can't," he said. And there was no accusation, only acceptance. "It's okay." "No," she wept. "It's not okay. I came to make it right." "You did," he said, water roaring around him like the end of the world. "You came. You asked. You're not that woman anymore. Madeline, you get to leave her in this storm." "I won't leave you," she sobbed. He smiled then. "Even now, even like this. Come in before I change my mind," he said softly, echoing his own words. Only now it meant, coming into life. Come into what matters. Before I'm gone. And then with a strength she didn't know he had left, he wrenched his hands free. "Ethan," she screamed, lunging. But the water took him. Just like that. 1 second he was there. Eyes on hers. Alive. Fierce. The next he was gone into the dark torrent. "No," Madeline shrieked, stumbling forward, nearly going in after him. But from the bank, a small, broken voice cried, "Mommy." "No, lady." And she remembered. Lily. Oh God. She turned, sobbing, scrambling up the slope. Lily was clinging to the root, soaked, face white with terror, eyes fixed on where her father had disappeared. "Daddy," she sobbed. "Where's Daddy?" Madeline grabbed her, pulled her into her arms, held her so tight it hurt. He saved us." Madeline choked. "He saved us." "Sweetheart." "Where is he?" Lily cried. "We have to get him." Madeline wanted to. God, she wanted to. But the water was death now. He had chosen. She had to honor it. She forced herself to look away from the raging blackness and up, toward the higher road. "We have to go," she whispered, voice raw. "We have to go now. For your dad. For Daddy." Lily whimpered. "Yes," Madeline said, gathering the child, stumbling up the road. Rain washing everything away. Dirt. Tears. Evidence. The past. We live. That's how we thank him. Dawn came slow. Gray. Exhausted. Heavy. The storm moved on, leaving everything drenched and scoured. The creek ran lower now. Calmer. As if nothing had happened. That was the cruelty of water. It did not remember. They found him downriver, caught in brush. The sheriff came. Neighbors came. Jensen came from his dry cabin, shocked, helping. They pried him loose gently. Madeline stood on the bank, arms around Lily, both wrapped in blankets. Her hair was matted, eyes red, lips bloodless. She watched them lift Ethan out of the water like something sacred. He looked peaceful. Of course he did. He had done what fathers did, what good men did. The sheriff, a grizzled man who knew Ethan, took off his hat. "He got you two to higher ground?" he asked, voice thick. Madeline nodded, unable to speak. "Then he did good," the sheriff said quietly. "He did real good. Lily broke then, sobbing into Madeline's chest. Small body, convulsing. Madeline held her like she would never let go. The funeral was small. Town people came. Men from the workshop. Jensen, the woman from the diner who always slipped Lily an extra cookie. They spoke about Ethan, his quiet humor, his work ethic, how he always showed up when someone's roof leaked. No one from Hayes Urban Development came. Of course they didn't. Madeline stood apart. A black coat around hair pulled back. Lily clung to her hand. People looked at them curiously. The city woman, the stranger who had been with him when he died. No one asked too many questions. Storms happened. Heroes died. After, when the crowd had thinned, Madeline knelt by the grave, fingers cold on the damp earth. "I came to you for help," she whispered, "and you gave it. Even after what I did, even after I took from you, you still opened the door." She wiped her eyes. "I won't waste it," she said. "I won't go back to who I was. I promise." A small hand slipped into hers. "Will Daddy see us?" Lily asked, voice small. "He will," Madeline said, voice breaking. "He will? Sweetheart, will he be mad?" I cried. "He would want you to cry," Madeline said. "He would want you to love him." Lily sniffed. Will you stay?" she whispered, looking up at Madeline with eyes that held Ethan's steadiness. That was the other choice. The one Storms gave, to become family when blood was gone. Madeline looked at the grave, at the town, at the life she had never chosen. She thought of the city of boardrooms, of battles, of the USB drive floating away in black water, carrying her old life with it. She thought of Ethan's last words. "Come in before I change my mind." He had meant, "Come into what matters." She squeezed Lily's hand. "I'll stay," she said. For him. Years later, when people in town told the story, they always told it the same way. How a storm came down from the hills. How the creek rose. How a single dad carried a child and a woman through floodwater to higher ground. How he went back. No. How he stayed in the water 1 second too long to make sure they were safe. How the woman who once lived in glass towers stayed in a small town after that, working quietly, helping other single parents, setting up a fund in his name. How she never remarried. How she never stopped telling Lily what kind of man her father was. They said it was tragic. They said it was sad. But they also said in a low, reverent way, on rainy nights, that sometimes storms take what was never meant to stay. And sometimes they leave behind what was always meant to be saved.